Okay.
I have to do this. I have to shut this off.
All right.
That's freaking weird.
All right. Hello, Earthlings. This is your favorite Martian, Skylar Mars, and we are here today with the good doctor himself, Dr. Cobblepot, or Angry Alan. What would you like me to call you in this one? Alan, Doctor, what do you want?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Either way, we're doing like a more straightforward thing here. So my name's Alan. Yeah, that's true.
All right.
But I'll answer it either way. It doesn't really matter to me.
All right. So, Doctor, thank you for coming on to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to it. I know we've been kind of missing each other on the way around, but glad we finally got a chance to sit down and do this.
Totally. And, I want to go back because, but before we started recording, you mentioned you'd been on a public access show where you used to live.
Yeah.
What is that?
You mean public access?
No. I know what that is. I mean, what were you doing on public access?
Well, I mean, really, my whole career started on public access, like, way back in, like, junior high. I had personally hatched an idea to have a public access show with my cousin, and then it became me and my friend. But what I was actually talking about was these other wrestlers from back home. Monster Mac and Training Number One have the Monster Mac show, and it's just a public access show run out of their town, and they've had it for a while. They always have wrestlers on, and it's a crazy program. Yeah, we did that. Me and my partner, Insane Dick Lane, went, and we just kayfabed, and like I was doing like the Mad Professor gimmick, and he had his super suit gimmick on, and yeah, we just had a super blast. Those guys are lots of fun. They were really into our thing we were doing. They just thought it was really funny, so they let us go off, and it was just wild.
All right. Because I remember you mentioned something like that. I was watching your YouTube show, Getting By with the Angry Guy, and you'd mentioned something called Tales from the Wild Side.
Yeah, that's the other one I was alluding to before. That is the core of what you're gonna find in my backstory. Like, Tales from the Wild Side was me and my homies, and like we did a public access TV show until our town basically kicked us off the air. And then we moved on doing like internet videos. We eventually started doing backyard wrestling, and we did underground, deep underground rap song. And it was, yeah, we just had a blast. We just did whatever we wanted for most of like a decade, just chilling. And that was lots of fun. And that eventually you do backyard wrestling enough in your 20s, and you start to feel like, maybe I should actually put some effort into trying to get into a wrestling ring, and that's basically where I ended up in my early 30s. You know what I mean? It's a journey. Life's a journey, but you can still go to talesfromthewildside.com and check out all the content, and I'm still updating it today with like Dr. Cobblepot stuff, and in the little corner of the website somewhere.
All right, I'll definitely have to check that out. And I just want to rewind for a second because I personally find this kind of odd. You're the same Dr. Cobblepot who I remember at the last show I saw you at, Badman Rising, you were teaching a kid at ringside about Calvins. And I'm sorry, you did underground rap?
Yeah, that is true. Both of those things can coexist within the same person. If you look hard enough, you'll find them eventually. Yeah. No, actually, like, my rap style, I can't even call it, like, the nerdcore, because that's, like, a whole nother thing, but it definitely came from, like, a high school era love of just, like, poetry and fucking... I'm sorry about the swearing.
Oh, it's quite all right. It happens with pretty much every episode so far.
All right. Yeah, but just, like, writing poems, and, like, I did a lot of, like, parody poems at first of like the stuff we were reading in class. I would write like another version that kept the same meter and the same rhyme scheme, but was like ridiculous. Yeah, eventually I just or you know what? Actually, my good friend Insane Dick Lane had dabbled in not only backyard wrestling but also like homemade garage rap, like back in high school. And it always those kind of things just hung in the back of my mind. Like, those are things I'd like to do, but I don't want to just look like I'm riding my homie's dick. So I want to wait till I actually, like, have a passion to do it for myself, you know what I mean? And one day I just started writing raps, and actually, that was around the time, it was before, but, like, while I was in my very early formative stages, there was a TV show called The White Rapper Show. I don't know if you remember that.
No, I do not. I'm only 18.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. This is only like 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh, really?
Whatever, young kid, you dang kids today with your Pac-Man video games. But yeah, the White Rapper Show, and it was pretty whack, but there was also a lot of cool things going on. Like, they did different challenges every week, and since I was on this, like, journey of my own, I would, like, watch the show and try to do the challenges that they were doing and stuff like that. Yeah, but rapping's just fun. I'm not a great freestyler, and I actually take it upon myself to do, like, extra whack freestyles just to kind of cement that point. But I've always liked, like, writing them down and having, like, intricate raps. Like, I've been influenced by, like, MC Paul Barman, who you probably never heard of, because he's, like, an insanely nerdy rapper. MF Doom, though, he's also pretty sweet, and, like, just his styles are out of control, like, indescribable. The villain, he's also, like, super into the gimmick. He wears the metal mask, like, all the time, and he calls himself the villain, and that dude is great. Anyway, yeah, but it's fun. We've done a couple live rap shows, which are also just plenty fun when you get some nice young ladies excited and maybe getting a little close to the stage, and it's a fun feeling.
All right. That's awesome.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it to anyone who wants to try.
Oh, of course. And I want to go to that point in your life, because I know you're not originally from here in AZ. Where are you actually originally from?
I'm from a town called Norwood, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
And, yeah, it's
one of the hardest states to spell.
That's true, too. I often say we don't even have a cute song like Mississippi, but it's a little tiny state, really, in comparison. Like, you can fit all of New England inside of Arizona, I'm pretty sure. But also everything's just crammed in. Like, where I was living is pretty crammed in. Everything was just on top of each other. And, I like it out here. I moved out here last August, so almost coming up on a year.
Oh, wow, you've not even been here that long.
Yeah, no, not at all, really. It's a drop in the bucket. And, everyone's, looking forward to seeing me sweat this summer out. But I got news for you. Ha-ha! I'm already sweating. I don't know. Yeah.
That was wonderful. Oh, this is good. Okay, why did you come over here?
Oh, well, actually, I came out here. My girlfriend has some family out here, and she's got, like, different career choices that she felt like this region had more opportunities for her. So she really wanted to move out here, and then she did, and I basically had to put up or shut up. And, I put up, and I moved out. And, or basically just for her, I guess is what I'm saying. The love thing, I don't want to put that over too hard because it makes me seem soft. But it's, that's it. I'm doing it for the future of my life. You know what I mean? And I didn't really have any serious professional responsibilities going on back home. Like, I had just broken into wrestling, like, mostly as a manager, though. Also, I'd only had a couple of matches on my own. But I did, like, get my first booking, like, independent of the company that I came up through. I had reached out to a promotion and I got booked in what I was considering, like, my going away tour, but it was the show right in my hometown. And it turned out a couple of my homies that influenced Jason Devine and Mike Montero had spoken up for me when the promoter asked. But, like, until they told me that, I thought that I had just, like, gotten by with my email and my YouTube clip. You know what I mean? But that was a great night.
I've heard that a lot of this business is word of mouth. Do you feel like there's any truth to that?
Yeah, that is definitely very true. Like, if it wasn't for those guys being just next to him while he was reading his email and talking out loud, like, I wouldn't have been on that show. And now I'd be 3,000 miles away from home without having ever wrestled in my hometown, which was like a bucket list kind of goal that I had for myself when I started wrestling, or when I started training for wrestling. You know, you have those weird goals that you set for yourself, I guess.
Now, I really wanted to ask, because this is kind of curious. Your character is very unique. I've not seen another mad scientist, at least as I've been thinking about it, running around. How did you come up with the character of Dr. Cobblepot?
Well, there's a lot of pop culture references and influences that I've either like just kind of taken a little off of or completely ripped off from, like Doc Brown and Back to the Future and Rick and Morty. Of course, Rick is just another parody of Doc Brown from Back to the Future, so that doesn't really count too much. But really, the evolution of the character, I have to give credit to my homie from back there, Dick Lane, who had, we had both come up through training together, but he was always like a little bit more advanced than I was, so he was ready to make his debut, and I was just going to be a manager. So he had hooked himself up. He bought a wrestling suit that looked like the Deadpool suit, and his idea, I had already started managing as Dr. Cobblepot, but I was just like a crackpot fighter promoter, like a guy who like would tell all these lies about his guy. He's like, he's 17 feet tall and he weighs 10 million pounds. Like that was the character. And then Dick Lane was like, well, what if I came to Dr. Cobblepot and he gave me a super suit, and then that's how I make my thing and you can be my manager guy. And basically just like snowballed from there into this out of control thing where I'm building like a time machine for the RWA back home, and they did a whole crazy sequence where they like flipped a tag match over halfway through, and like the two teams were made up of these old two teams from a few years ago, and they came up, you know what I mean? They switched back and forth. That was super fun, and yeah, I can't even take credit for most of the character. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Props to my homie Dick Lane and Rick and Morty. Mostly Rick and Morty. I try to keep it mostly Rick and Morty because I just love that cartoon so much.
I'm only a few episodes in, but I can actually kind of immediately see the resemblance. I even noticed that when you come out to the ring, you do the Doc Brown like looking at your watch thing that he does on the cover of the film, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And also, I do the move where it looks like I'm zooming out of the curtain almost, which the roots of that go back to Dick Lane as well, had kind of given me a little shove through the curtain like the first time we were appearing, because he wanted me to like pop out with the very beginning of his entrance theme so that he could then come out a few seconds later when the drop happened, you know what I mean?
Of course, the drop.
So I just integrated that into my thing, so now I just always look like I'm like zapping out from the backstage area.
I like that. It fits your character, and speaking of things that fit your character, I want to ask about Weird Science. I mean, I already talked about how kayfabe that thing worked out, and I kind of hope Chad doesn't get mad at me for breaking this, but how did that work out?
You mean just us teaming up?
Yeah.
Or, well, basically, I came through town. I just moved in, and I actually hit up the Tucson subreddit. I just put a post that was like asking about local wrestling promotions, and Elamor or I'm sorry, actually his cousin, right, the Disco Kid, hit me back and said, you know, High Impact Wrestling's running, just come through, like say hello, you know, and that's what I did. And Chad was one of the first guys that I met, and he was just kind of there and listening to my whole ideas and gimmick, and he was, and then he told me about his thing, and it seemed like they were like these two, not parallel, but like different stories on the same wavelength. You know what I mean? And I have always been cooking in the back of my mind for a storyline to eventually, because I'm sorry, I'm all over the place right now. When I moved home, the RWA wrote it into the storyline that one of the bad guys hacked into my technology and sent me to an alternate dimension, and then that's where I ended up is in Tucson. But the character thinks it's like a weird dimension. I don't know. I didn't really finish it, but I always wanted to have the storyline for me to obtain some obscurium, which would potentially be from a wrestling belt, and then I would go home to RWA and exact my revenge on Tom Billington. I didn't want to say his name because he's the bad guy, but there it is. And get my revenge and reunite with Dick Lane, but then, one night only, and they'd still, like, powerbomb me to crap and I disappear or something. I don't know. But that's what I've always wanted to do, so I've always kind of been trying to look for other things that can work to extend that storyline, you know what I mean? And working with Chad is just like, it's a super perfect fit, like on the Vitabogs and everything. Like I could imagine some of these other high impact dudes on the Vitabog, but I don't know if their characters would be capable of embracing it the way that Chad Hockley is, you know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah. So I mean, everyone's been super cool, by the way. Like I don't want to start naming names because I'll forget more than I can say. But everyone at High Impact Wrestling that I've met in this last, like, most of a year has been just a bunch of super cool dudes, and just a bunch of guys who are out there and doing what they love for the love of the sport, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I like it a lot. I have a lot of fun. I can't wait till October when we're back at the swap meet, because I actually kind of prefer those shows to the VFW shows. Probably just because it's more tiny little kids yelling and throwing shit.
I guess that's kind of fair, and I guess that could bring me to a question. The last time I saw you at a swap meet show, you were fighting Shotbinsky. That was it. I couldn't remember which one of them brothers it was. And you were kind of just for a day. Like, it didn't seem permanent. You were just playing the heel for a day. So I'm just...
Yeah.
Why did that happen?
There's a few different factors at work there. And this, they're both kind of like storyline and real life, but like, mostly storyline. Where in real life, Shokbinsky and I had hung out a few times, and he actually really just wanted to have a match and wanted to have a match with me and like kind of see what we each had to offer and like show people that we were worth watching, basically. And I was really excited for him. He's a lot younger than me. He's got a lot of steam ahead of him, and it's like, I want to be part of that with you, man. Yeah, let me fucking do that with you. So we did that, but then that was one of the random days where Chad had been double booked to work like his regular job, so he couldn't make it to the show. So I ended up doing a singles match when I wanted to do a tag match. And I'm a grumpy baby sometimes, I guess, is what I'm trying to say there. But also, Shokbinsky's character is that he's always drunk. And even though Dr. Cobblepot is frequently, clearly inebriated, he doesn't actually approve of others drinking and wrestling. So that was kind of like a little bit in there.
Is the doc a little bit of a hypocrite?
He is a little bit of a hypocrite. He tries not to be drunk for wrestling, though. Like, he's usually pretty wasted in the Bitterbogs, but actually more recently, the ones from Arizona, or World 2, as I call it, in the Bitterbogs, the desert world, he's more just like heat stroke than actually like wasted on anything, because he's just gathering supplies in the desert, you know? So yeah, it's still definitely a little bit of a hypocrite, and that's not unique to the character of Dr. Cobblepot. I'm pretty sure he borrows that from yours truly.
That's hilarious. I actually meant to go into the Vitabogs a little bit because that's actually a really unique way to, I mean, I guess, show a little bit of people like what you're about, and at the same time, you're kind of cutting a promo, just like you're always plugging in the different shows you're going to and etc. And I'm just curious as to how the Vitabog came out.
Well, that actually goes right back to the Insane Dick Lane super suit situation, where we actually started doing the Vitabogs as kind of like his like introduction videos, where in the transition to being a mad professor, I realized that like it would fit the format that I would keep a video journal of like all the results of my experiments and stuff like that, and I could just start one like almost like a Star Trek episode starts like Captain's Log, blah 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 blah. I could be like Vitabog, where it's short for video weblog, because why would you want to say all these words? Video, web, log? How about we just shorten it to one simple word like Vitabog? And that's also a joke because the word vlog exists for that purpose, and I say that whole sentence a bunch of times. Yeah, no, but that's basically it. And then I really, people started to really enjoy them, and like when we had to introduce like a new gadget or gizmo, like that was a really easy way to do that and to like show it working in a way that was easier to do than would be in the middle of a ring in front of a crowd, you know what I mean? So yeah, it just worked, and it's lots of fun.
You know what? I remember this. It was on Raw a really long time ago. I don't remember how long ago. Like the last couple years, because it was Santino versus Swagger. For some reason, the Muppets were there, and the two scientist ones gave him like a potion that was supposed to help him, but he ended up like Muda misting it into Jack Swagger's face. How come you've never done anything like that? Because that seems really simple.
For the most part, I've kind of been taking it easy on using the gadgets in HIW as I'm still like more getting kind of acquainted with the dudes backstage, like earning their trust and stuff.
I see.
I do have a couple of different concoctions up my sleeve that I have been waiting to unleash on the locker room, but no, that's a good point. I definitely can see why you, the fan, would want to see Dr. Cobblepot using his potions or his gadgets in the matches, and it's really just like a matter of I feel like I need to earn these dudes' trust a little bit more before I start really goofing off with that shit. Which is, I mean, I'm not trying to downplay myself and what I do, because it's just something that's different. And I know HIW has a much longer history than I was even aware of when I started wrestling with them, and a lot of that history, dudes, they've bled for it, literally, and they might not be so happy to see someone in their ring, in their house that they built, using like a super speed potion or like a super strength potion. Like I feel like they might have a problem with it when it's someone who just came in from out of nowhere and started doing like all this wacky shit. So I'm trying to, and it's not easy for me either. I don't want to make it seem like I'm taking the easy way out. I'm not even a good wrestler. And so I've been really trying to hone my craft as slowly as it seems like I'm going. I'm trying to get better so that I can like do like the weirder shit, which I would like to be doing.
That seems perfect. That seems perfectly fair, actually. It seems like a more, how do I put this, responsible look at your situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably because I'm an old man, like I said. I'm 31 right now, and I only started training when I was like 29, so I've only been involved for a couple of years, and like usually dudes my age in the wrestling business, they've already been involved for 10 or 12 years, 9, 11, 13 years, sometimes more. And like I can't say anything to them about like, oh, well, this is something that I always thought I'd like to see. If they're going to come at me like, oh, well, I know a guy who did something like that 5 years ago, and it was super whack, and no one's ever going to like that. And I don't know. I'm a very paranoid kind of person, though, so I probably think too much in that kind of direction.
All right, and I guess my really the last question I had written down here, because I always ask everyone I come onto the show, because I'm someone who's trying to get into the wrestling business to like actually in ring compete. I have scheduled to start training within the next month, actually.
Okay.
I wanted to ask for any advice that you might have before we get off the air here tonight.
Definitely knee pads. You're going to want to buy knee pads for your very first day of training. Or you can go for it. You can go to training without knee pads too. But usually they come back the second week with knee pads. And that's definitely the easiest number one thing to say. But also, I would say, go for it and don't even hold back at all. You're so young. You got your whole future ahead of you. You have nothing to fear from earning experience in any direction. And what am I trying to say? I don't regret anything that I have ever done, but I definitely regret some things that I didn't even try. You know what I mean? So just, if you want to wrestle, then go wrestle. And definitely train and focus on training first. Train. And then one day your trainer or someone who you're training with will be like, hey man, there's a show at blah, blah, blah. They need this many dudes. Do you want to take a ride with me, get your gear, and then go and do it, man? Because there's nothing like it in the world, and there's definitely no regrets to be had.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming on to the show. Last call to plug anything if you have any plugs to make.
Yeah, I'll plug Facebook at Dr. Cobblepot for if you want to follow the Dr. Cobblepot page. I think at Team Weird Science is the tag team page. TalesFromTheWildSide.com, of course, and TalesFromTheWildSide.com/Dr. Cobblepot, where you can purchase the very first Dr. Cobblepot t-shirt, which I, again, do not have enough experience in this business. I have no business selling a t-shirt, but if you want one, you can get it at TalesFromTheWildSide.com/Dr. Cobblepot.
All right, well, again, thank you very much for coming on to the show.
No, thanks for having me, man. This was a blast. I hope I didn't talk over you too much and ruin your plans or anything.
Oh, not at all. Actually, this all went pretty according to plan.
Excellent. All right, glad to hear that. Thanks very much for having me, dude.
All right, no problem. And you folks at home, we'll see you again soon.